Hi, I'm Kaushik Nathan. I'm going to talk about what is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership and why India did not join the trade deal. What is RCEP? It is a proposed free trade agreement between the 10 member states of the Association of Southeast Nations, ASEAN, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and what is now 5 FTA partners China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. India, the sixth partner, quit the pact at the November Bangkok summit. In response, China announced that India would still be welcome to join RCEP whenever it is ready. India feared that by joining the trade deal, its domestic market would be flooded by imports, thereby putting its domestic industry and agriculture at risk, an issue that was not addressed at Bangkok. Not joining the RCEP also would boost Modi's Make in India initiative and protect the country's economic interests and national priorities. India runs a very large trade deficit with RCEP countries and was looking for specific protections for its industry and farmers from a surge in imports, especially from China. The decision comes amid rising opposition to the pact, with leading political parties stepping up attacks on RCEP. Domestic industry and dairy farmers have strong reservations about joining the trade deal. India's trade deficit with RCEP nations is around 105 billion US dollars, with China alone accounting for 53.5 billion US dollars. The main worry is over Chinese manufactured goods and products from New Zealand flooding Indian markets. The trade agreement was also seen as being detrimental to government's Make in India initiative. India was looking for specific rules of origin to ensure that the pact was not abused by non-partner countries, and it wanted an auto-trigger mechanism to protect it from a surge in imports. E-commerce and trade remedies were among the other key areas of concern that was not satisfactorily addressed. New Delhi had proposed different levels of tariff concessions for China to safeguard its domestic industry from cheap imports. On the other hand, India did not get any credible assurance on market taxes and non tariff barriers. India was also worried about keeping 2014 as the base year for tariff reductions. India had been consistent about raising these issues from the start of RCEP negotiations. Many of its earlier trade agreements had been lopsided and hurt domestic industry, and New Delhi is keen not to repeat the same mistakes this time around. The Modi government feels that previous governments engaged in poor negotiations in reaching free trade agreements, which is why it wants to review its trade pacts with South Korea and ASEAN. India is now expected to pursue separate trade agreements with some of the countries that will be still part of the bloc, such as Australia and New Zealand, as well as with those countries with which it has had negotiations in the past, such as European Union. Some have argued that RCEP could have resulted in opportunities in the manufacturing sector related to global value chain. Others, however, take a contrarian view, saying that this too would have been neutralized because of the lack of infrastructure in India. Global value chain manufacturing allows large corporations to use multiple countries, thus reaping the benefits of cheap labor. With labor costs increasing in China, these corporations are looking at newer jurisdictions such as Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and India to manufacture products. But the fear in India was that Chinese companies would use this window to dump many of their products in India. In the past 3 years, India's anti dumping duties against Chinese companies have been the maximum against any country. Although the RCEP negotiations, India refused to concede space on framing policy seeking local storage and processing of data. Its tasks at home are clear cut. India will have to accelerate reforms to make exports more competitive. A major factor in the Bangkok decision is that Indian manufacturing is not competitive enough. They fear that a flood of imports from RCEP partner countries would wipe out many Indian market players, also lurks in the minds of policymakers. As mentioned, out of 15 countries in the RCEP, India has a total trade deficit of more than 105 billion US dollars. Understandably, India sought safeguard processes such as an automatic trigger safeguard mechanism ATSM, a process that automatically increases levies once imports cross a given threshold, which the negotiating partners are not very happy with. Before expecting the 15 RCEP countries to take a softer position on India's concerns, India should keep its own house in order. This includes round the clock quality electricity, cheap and efficient logistics, and access to cheap and high quality capital. India's export to GDP ratio dipped from 25.3% in 2012-13 to 19.7% by the end of 2017-18. The list also includes the reforms required to push the micro, small, and medium enterprise segments. The RCEP countries are aware of such constraints on India and have therefore kept a window open for return for a signing agreement by end of 2020.